Ron, where are you? Where is Ron right now? You done messed up, Ron.
Ron is here. Thanks for joining me thanks for joining me, everyone, yet again for yet another segment of SPTV. See, I done messed up. I can't even get my intro right, you guys. I'm getting kind of a late start today. It's 2:30. I've got like 4 different videos I want to do today. I got a bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to get to everything, so I'm doing the best that I can. Okay. So I would say that David Miscavige and his lawyers done messed up, but really these guys are using and abusing our country's legal system. You could almost say the way it was intended to be used and abused by individuals and organizations with billions of dollars who have nothing better to do than to delay and waste the court's time. So Scientology's tiny, diminutive leader, I am talking about Captain David Miscavige of the Keebler clan, Scientology's boss baby himself. By the way, this is my life-size David Miscavige plush doll. Okay. Adorable, isn't he? David Miscavige is just like this little Keebler elf. If this Keebler elf ran a worldwide multi-billion-dollar human trafficking cult. Okay. So what are we talking about here? David Miscavige, I'm going to assume, I'm not going to assume that anybody already knows what I'm talking about. David Miscavige is being sued in a labor trafficking suit. That's only one of the complaints in this civil lawsuit. There's many complaints, like 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that, by 3 former Scientologists, 3 former Sea Org members, all Australian citizens, or all residents of Australia, all of whom worked on Scientology's cruise ship called the Free Winds. Miscavige, since last April, so for 11 months now, has been evading and avoiding process servers in this case, both in Florida and in California. The plaintiff's attorneys finally satisfied all requirements needed in order to get the court in Florida, a federal district court in Florida, to rule that Miscavige has been served and that he's been served through, I think this language is correct, an alternate process serving him through the Secretary of State of Florida. This ruling, which was a couple weeks ago, Miscavige has now officially filed his complaint to being ruled served. The crux of the complaint, and I'm going to show you a few highlights here from the complaint itself. The crux of the complaint here is that Miscavige does not conduct any business in Florida, at least not as an individual. This is a weird legal distinction that apparently exists. In order to be served by the Secretary of State in Florida, Miscavige's attorneys are saying, you can't just do business because Miscavige is a resident of California. You can't just serve someone through the Secretary of State because they do business there in the capacity of a business person. It has to be as an individual. So it has to be David Miscavige, not David Miscavige, the ecclesiastical leader of Scientology. It's very strange. Here are, I'll do this in sequence. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little paragraphs out of this thing that I'm going to share with you guys. It's all very interesting. So this is just a screenshot of the actual cover page of the complaint itself. Gawain Baxter, Laura Baxter, and Valeska Paris are the plaintiffs. Verse, David Miscavige, Church of Scientology International, Religious Technology Center. RTC is the organization Miscavige is the head of. IAS Administrations, Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization, Church of Scientology Flagship Service Organization. David Miscavige's objection to the order, granting in part and denying in part plaintiff's motion for order, declaring Miscavige served with process and in default. Okay, so let's check out some of these arguments. Mr. Miscavige has never been personally served with process in this action. Instead, plaintiffs sought a ruling that he could be deemed served through the Florida Secretary of State, though their motion failed to identify any statutory authorization for doing so. On February 14th, Magistrate Judge Sneed denied the motion in part, declining to find Mr. Miscavige in default, but finding that he had been properly served with process pursuant to sections, Because this finding was clearly erroneous and contrary to law, Mr. Miscavige objects to the order in accordance with Okay, next one here. In granting this motion, the magistrate erroneously reached beyond plaintiff's motion to find support for such substitute service based on arguments raised for the first time at the hearing. In doing so, the magistrate relied upon allegations in the amended complaint that were pure legal conclusions and boilerplate, misinterpreted or ignored the amended complaint's specific allegations concerning Mr. Miscavige's activities, which belied the boilerplate statements and construed plaintiff's allegations in a manner contrary to the sworn affidavits submitted by other defendants, and in a manner that risks a significant encroachment on the defendant's First Amendment rights. Yes, indeed. By the way, one of the reasons that Scientology will, let me change my little view here. One of the reasons why Scientology protects so fiercely, will do anything, will spend any amount of money to protect its tax-exempt status is, of course, for the financial reasons. But beyond that, it's due to the protections that Scientology enjoys in the courts as a result of the ruling that reinstated their tax exemption. It gives them protections way above and beyond the normal protections that exist for individuals or corporations. So you can see them falling back on that here. Okay. So next section, the allegations of the amended complaint repeatedly make plain that the alleged business conduct was not undertaken by Mr. Miscavige in his personal capacity, but rather on behalf of RTC, the entity for which Mr. Miscavige serves as the chairman, or on behalf of the religion more generally. That's right. Mr. David Miscavige is never conducting business as Mr. David Miscavige, the individual, the human being. He is always, at all times, conducting business on behalf of Scientology itself, and somehow that means you cannot serve him. Truly incredible. Okay, next one here. Plaintiffs recognize that Mr. Miscavige is the ecclesiastical leader of the Scientology religion, as well as chairman of the board, RTC. Now, to me, those two things are the same thing. They're making a distinction here, which I find interesting. Being chairman of the board of RTC does make you the ecclesiastical leader of Scientology, at least the way I think about it. So whatever. That his actions might benefit other Scientology entities reflects his responsibilities in those positions. Plaintiffs do not even allege that Mr. Miscavige's lack of a role with other defendants, meaning the other Scientology organizations, suggest that he was acting in his individual capacity or that they are his agent. To the contrary, plaintiff's allegation is that Mr. Miscavige, through RTC, somehow directs the other entities. That is untrue, but even plaintiff's allegations are contrary to the magistrate's conclusion. Okay, real quick here. It is 100% true that Miscavige, through RTC, conducts, what was it? What was the word here? It says somehow directs the other entities. It is 100% true that Miscavige, David Miscavige, directs all of the other Scientology entities through his control of RTC. It really is incredible to see his attorneys arguing in court, in public documents available to any Scientologists, that he in fact doesn't. In all internal Scientology promotional materials and propaganda, David Miscavige personally takes credit for anything and everything these other Scientology entities and subsidiaries do. And anyway, just remarkable to see this. Okay, so let's carry on. To suggest that Mr. Miscavige is acting in an individual capacity when he takes actions benefiting Scientology broadly is to ignore his role in the religion, as well as plaintiffs' own allegations, and is an extraordinary judicial dismissal of the matter in which a religion organizes its internal ecclesiastical affairs. All right, interesting. Second to last excerpt here. The magistrate's sweeping decision to treat a series of tax-exempt religious entities as the mere agents of Mr. Miscavige not only denigrates the legitimacy of Scientology as a religion, oh my goodness, but also the church's First Amendment freedoms, as reflected in the ministerial exception and ecclesiastical abstention doctrine. Yes, we're all familiar with the ecclesiastical abstention doctrine. The Supreme Court has held that the First and 14th Amendments afford religions a special place under the law, and a religion's determinations of church governance must be viewed as final. Okay, so what this means, Miscavige's attorneys are saying, you have to take our word for it when we tell you how Scientology is organized and how things are directed. You're not even allowed to investigate, question, try to determine the accuracy or validity of any of this information. You have to take our word for it because we're a religion and you're not allowed to question anything we do. This is why Scientology will do anything to keep its tax exemption. Again, yes, it's the financial aspect, but it's this protection. It's this protection where the court, I mean, this is one of the things at issue in this very lawsuit, is the plaintiffs are even asking the court to determine that they're even allowed to sue in the first place, because the plaintiffs have signed agreements to not sue, arbitration agreements to never sue Scientology. But these agreements are signed under duress. And the plaintiffs are asking the court to essentially rule that these things were signed under duress and the lawsuit can move forward. One of the things Scientology is arguing in this lawsuit, totally separate from this issue of whether Miscavige has been served, is Scientology is arguing to the court that the court isn't allowed to even try to determine whether these things were signed under duress. You just have to take Scientology's word for it because they're a religion. Okay, let's see. Okay, so last screenshot here. The magistrate's broad conclusion that for the purposes of service of process, all Scientology organizations may be treated as agents of Mr. Miscavige, engaging in business for his personal benefit, rather than religious charitable activities, intrudes into the religious affairs of the church no less than a determination that every Roman Catholic church or charity is but an agent of the Pope for his pecuniary benefit. Now, guys, I grew up in a cult. I did not know what the word pecuniary meant, so I had to look it up. It just means money, financial, his financial benefit. So this was a completely expected response from Miscavige and his attorneys. It's going to be really interesting to see how many years even Miscavige can potentially drag out this entire lawsuit. I mean, this issue of whether he's been served or not served, I think there's very, very little chance that the federal district judge in this case will overturn the magistrate judge who he delegated the decision to regarding Miscavige being served. But we're gonna see delays like this and objections and appeals and all sorts of this stuff every single step of the way. But as of right now, Miscavige is still considered served in this case. The court has ruled that he is subject to their jurisdiction. They did the one other request that was submitted and was approved by the judge. Miscavige had a deadline to actually submit his formal response to the complaint in this lawsuit. Once Magistrate Judge Juliet Sneed ruled that Miscavige had been served, she basically said, I thought it was 10 days, but maybe not. You have 10 days to file your official response to the lawsuit now that you are under this court's jurisdiction. Miscavige did ask for that deadline to be postponed, I think by at least 21 days, because they said we can't possibly be subject to that deadline when we haven't even submitted our objection yet to the erroneous ruling that Miscavige is under the jurisdiction of the court. So the request to postpone that deadline was approved. That's why we saw this filing occur yesterday. And I really have no idea how long we're supposed to should expect to wait in order for a ruling on this. But whenever we find out, I'll let you guys know. All right, everybody, stay tuned. Much more to come today on SPTV, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.